making little digs at your spouse. Oh,
Right.
it's just like I'm poking with these negative things, and they feel it, and they're not going to want to be close. Makes me think of some of those commercials where the kids are playing and the one child's got their finger right next to their sibling's face, and I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you. But
Right.
have you ever missed a deadline that you were preparing for, but you just weren't motivated to follow through? Wow. I know this hit my household. I think about April 15th and taxes, and that's a deadline. And every once in a while it falls, on a Sunday, and they have to bump it a day or two, but they allow you to extend it a couple of times before there's a penalty. And truth be told, I have been to that final end of the time period because I knew it needed to happen, but I wasn't totally motivated to do it. And we have a topic today that in marriage could fall under this category. The thing is that most couples, they aren't lacking a desire for connection. They have this idea, there is a sweet spot, we want marriage to be awesome, but at the same time, they're accidentally killing it in small, everyday ways. And sometimes you don't see it, and it's right in front of you. And Katieann and I were talking before recording and saying, we may be delivering a 2x4 right across your head today. I hope you're ready for it. And if that offends you, then maybe you are the one that needed it. I don't know. We'll just trust the Holy Spirit to bring revelation to you. But where our goal is to create easier steps for couples to say yes to connection and yes to intimacy. So even before we get to all those steps, Katieann, I want to just unpack, what are some of the benefits of a healthy and biblical sex life within marriage? What are some first things that come to mind for you?
Well, there's the health benefits, which are really, really good for you. It helps you sleep. It improves your immune system. You get serotonin release, which is really good for your body. We all need that. We're created to need, our body needs those chemicals. And I think emotionally, there's something to be said about feeling safe enough with someone that you can be at your most vulnerable emotionally, spiritually, and physically, to have that person, to have that safety, to have that trust. We were created for that. Even in Genesis, when God created man and woman, he said, this is good. And I always,
good.
Very good. And so that is our design. That is, as we are in his image, he designed us for that level of connection, which includes intimacy physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And so the benefits of having that impacts every aspect of your life. And if you think it doesn't, here's the 2x4, you are wrong. Sorry, you are wrong. It impacts everything in your life.
That's completely true. And I almost roll my eyes over talking about the benefits of sex because it's so true and so powerful, and yet there's so much resistance in marriages. And I know logic is not necessarily going to be what will sway you, but I just really felt a prompting of the Lord to highlight the benefits again, because God's design is good, and to cultivate a new motivation to get past whatever struggles, obstacles that you've had, so that you can get to that place of enjoying the benefits.
Yeah. So in addition to spiritual alignment and relational connection, what are some of the physical benefits. I know I mentioned a couple of them, but I
Yeah.
love when you talk about them.
Yes, absolutely. Certainly lowers your stress and it promotes calm. And that is long lasting. It's not just right there in the moment. That carries on with you, can boost your immune function. I even like how that is expressed. Hey, does that mean you have sex more often in the winter when it's flu season? I don't know. Something to consider.
Try it.
Improve. Yeah, try it. Let us know. Improve your sleep quality. Oh, Jesus. Isn't life better and different when you've had a good night's rest?
Yeah.
So that is really, really significant. It supports heart health. And women tend to have heart issues in a completely different way that men do. So, hey, this is a way that you can be proactive, and this is a part of God's plan for you. Releases the endorphins to reduce pain. So if you've had a headache, if there's been tension, if there's menstrual cramps, this is actually in your favor. Who knew? Strengthens pelvic floor muscles and your core. So men and women have a pelvic floor, only slightly different as far as where the genitalia is, but we need that strengthening. And as you age, this is even more important. It balances key hormones that are tied to your mood, energy, and reproductive health. So it is ongoing benefits when you are consistent, when you're regular, when you prioritize sexual intimacy in your marriage. Increases blood flow to the brain and the body. Wow, it helps with cognition. Does that mean you're going to have brilliant ideas the next day? Maybe so. Promotes relaxation and the nervous system regulation. It just makes you want to keep taking these deep cleansing breaths, just knowing we can breathe in all of the goodness that God had. Contributes to long-term wellness through reduced chronic stress. I mean, really, if you're in the world, then you're experiencing some stress. And to realize that this is one of the benefits. God went before you and He provided a solution even before you had a problem. And I know in the bridal magazines, they may not be posting these top 10 reasons to have sex that are health related, but they're absolutely there. And I have just a couple of more that are focused on your career.
Oh,
Did
nice.
you know a great sex life in your marriage can help your career? Now, the research I did said, well, we can't actually say you got a promotion because you have a great sex life. But what they can say is that when there is satisfaction in the marriage, when there's peace at home, that is when the workplace or career place results can be observed. So we mentioned earlier, it improves your next day mood and your work engagement. I mean, we see these on the sitcoms. That woman bebops into the office and everybody stops and looks at her and like, oh, we know what happened last night.
I know what you did. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And lots of times those scenarios are outside the marriage, but we're saying inside the marriage, it's even better because you have security. And security
Right.
reduces anxiety. Also, so many other, we'll have to do that as an entire episode, how they measure the benefits of sex in marriage versus outside of marriage. It's kind
Wow.
of interesting. Increases your energy, reduces burnout, enhances focus, clarity, decision making, builds emotional stability under pressure. Wow, Jesus. So really, before that big meeting, to schedule some private time with your spouse, it's a win-win right there. Strengthens confidence. So you don't need as much external validation. And certainly in the workplace, that is going to show up pretty much any kind of team building. When you're feeling confident, people are attracted to you, and you might just have this presence of, hey, I got it together. Not in a false way, but bosses notice that. Let me just leave it right there. And let's see, let's find one more really good one. Reduces emotional leakage into workplace relationships. So, not as much dirty laundry is being aired when you're feeling good about yourself and about your marriage. So it really changes how you're showing up.
I can take a little bit of credit for my husband's success in his career.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there you go.
Works both ways for sure. But I know, even though all of these good things are there, God's promised, and we want to hold on to those, we often blow it. Yeah. What are some of the ways that we might accidentally kill the opportunity for intimacy in marriage?
Yeah, I think there's just a few things that come right to mind, such as having a busy schedule. If you have kids, if you have hectic work schedule, extracurriculars, oftentimes when we get home, we want to just veg out. We watch TV, and watching TV together is actually one of the lowest forms of intimacy. So even if you are doing that activity and you have your favorite show, it's not really producing the fruit of intimacy that you might think it is. And so I just really want to encourage people that connection that should happen before TV, which is when you're tired, that's not what you want to do. But trust me, if you flip that priority, you'll see the benefit of it. But also, I think too, is a lot of couples struggle when there is a disagreement because they make their connection based solely on having agreement. And so your connection is meant to be based on understanding. Yes, well, it's a little bit more detailed than that, but to simplify it, when we make the priority of our connection based on understanding, even if we do have some disagreements, we can still move together towards each other in intimacy and connection. But if you're stuck in I'm right, they're wrong, that's going to quickly kill opportunities for sexual intimacy. And so even understanding that connection and really prioritizing the place of my connection with my husband is not based on our agreement in everything in our life, but it's based on our I choose you and our understanding of each other, our value for each other makes a huge difference, because then those disagreements don't kill our sexual intimacy.
Absolutely. And it can sneak up on you for sure.
Yeah, for sure. How does this, for you, Mary, how does this usually show up for your clients, though? I'm curious.
Right. And I think a lot of times it's a pattern that they're unaware of. And it is a mindset that they've brought forward and just need a loving little 2x4 over the head to realize, oh, was I doing that? And I didn't notice it. So I've got several here, and I want to put this a little bit in slow motion just so people can process this, because they might have been expecting what we said about benefits, but did they know that they are potentially responsible for killing the possibility for intimacy? So this is what happens sometimes, and you definitely hinted at some of these as well. Not prioritizing time for each other. And that is, what are we doing with our day? Everybody's got 24 hours. Are you scheduling time? Yes, scheduling time for intimacy, connection, all of those things. The next one, making little digs at your spouse. Oh, it's just like I'm poking poking with these negative things, and they feel it, and they're not going to want to be close. Makes me think of some of those commercials where the kids are playing and the one child's got their finger right next to their sibling's face, and I'm not touching you, but
Right.
they have that sense of, oh my gosh, this is an irritation. If your
Right.
behavior is irritating your spouse and you're doing it intentionally, then you are part of the problem. Letting who initiates interrupt your plans. So if you're like, I'm always the one that initiates, I don't know why they won't initiate. Well, see, if you're hung up on that, then that is part of the problem. Maybe you need to talk it out. Who's going to initiate? There's lots of creative ways to decide that. But if you've locked in that you're right, they're wrong, that whole agreement thing again about who initiates, that can be a problem. Not being vulnerable to requests, and that can be even your own requests. Like, am I going to get vulnerable as I'm sharing my request, my preference for different things in sex? Am I going to be vulnerable to let them share their requests? So if you're putting a wall up when things are on the edge, they're about to get vulnerable, then that would kill the opportunity. Keeping resentment charged. Oh boy, this is sad, because we get used to a certain level of feelings and intensity inside, and you may have had so much resentment for so long, that's what feels normal. And if it drops, you're like, oh, I need to do something else to get back to that feeling. Even though it's a normal feeling, it's not a healthy feeling. So resentment is not going to be your friend. Using disagreement as a wall, meaning I don't like what you've asked, what you've done, something, and just build a wall, because intimacy is the opposite of having a wall. Hello.
Right.
Unrealistic expectations, and this can fall in so many areas. Yes, it can be sex specific in that I'm expecting you to do ABC, and that could be performance with certain activities, that could be initiating, like we said, that could be just leading in lots of ways. So expectations are great when you share them, realizing though we still need to be flexible. Even if you shared your expectation, doesn't mean it's a given that it's going to happen. Being strangers during the day. Wah, wah, wah. 30, bedtime, let's just do what we think we're always expected to do. That works against you. It gets old, becomes a rut, and nobody feels special. Nobody feels like they were chosen. Not willing to learn new things. Wow. This is about sexual intimacy, even different activities, new activities you can do together. It's about connection, emotional connection, learning new things. So marriage tools. If you're listening to this podcast, then give yourself a pat on the back, because you are doing something that is destined to bring more health to your marriage. Requiring spontaneity. I mean, can those words go together? But I've heard it. I've heard it from my clients that they measure successful intimacy by whether it's spontaneous or not.
That's
so
good.
They're requiring it to be spontaneous. Well, it's just mind-blowing that is a concept that they feel is realistic. Oh my gosh, what a list, but sad. I'm seeing a lot of these things. And, before we can give you the steps, which we want to, and I'm super excited because these steps are going to be really practical, and they are things that maybe you're already doing, but you can go, oh, that's a good thing. Let me remember to do that. Before we can give you those steps, there are some deeper things that we have to consider first that would definitely require attention before you can be like, we're pursuing more sexual intimacy in marriage. So what are some of the deeper things that come to mind for you, Katieann?
I mean, if there's addiction that's affecting the intimacy, which, I mean, that's what addiction does, is it harms ourselves and our most important relationships. If there's abuse, whether it's verbal or emotional abuse, even physical abuse, those are areas of concern. Those are the deeper areas that need to be considered first, for sure.
That is really the time when I wave a stop sign and say, don't pursue sexual intimacy when your relationship is characterized by this type of behavior. Yeah. And we've had several podcast episodes in the past where we really did a deep dive on that. I don't often say no, and I don't often say stop, but this is one of the times. If people continue with sexual intimacy under these scenarios, it does more harm, and it is not godly. And sometimes that has been the feedback. Oh, I have to do this in order to please my spouse. Or sometimes in order to be a good Christian, I have to continue. And I'm like, oh no, it's gotten twisted if that is their position. So there is a time to say no, and it's a blessed no, and to take things more seriously at that point.
Yeah, it's the permission to say no in these situations, and it's very important to understand and be empowered to do that in your marriage.
Yes.
It's okay. But one of the things that we love to do on this podcast is to give practical steps to building connection and intimacy. So give them to us, Mary. What are some super practical steps to make it easier to say yes?
All right. Well, I'm going to number these also because sometimes that helps people to keep up with it. So number 1, rethink your timing. This could mean a lot of things. Maybe you need to go to bed at the same time. Maybe you need to start earlier than being in the bedroom. And maybe you can include a quickie and a longer romantic time as goals, as equal goals. That way people are a lot like, oh boy, does it have to be one of those 4-hour nights where one thing builds on the next, and can I even make that happen? No, quickies do have their place. I don't encourage that as the absolute go-to unless you're just in a season of life where that needs to be the case, because I do value the deeper connection for couples. Number 2, remove mental clutter. So you might want to do a 5-minute brain dump together. You might want to handle one of those stressors before you go to bed, whether that's like, oh, we got to make the kids lunches, or, oh, did you take the trash out? One activity possibly. Let's just not let it be hanging over. And just to name out loud something that might be in the way of you being able to give yourself to intimacy. This is not necessarily the time to dive in deep with, oh, how long has this been going on? But just to mention it, and knowing that if your relationship has a good rhythm, you can say, hey, this is an issue. Let's talk about it more tomorrow. I just needed to mention it now. Number 3, set the environment. Here we have the good old-fashioned, are you going to dim the lights? Are you going to put out some candles? Are you going to do anything special in the atmosphere? Certainly put your phones across the room, unless you're using them for some mood music. Okay, that's a plus. And then as far as the environment, start before you're exhausted. Because if you have gone back to the bedroom and collapsed on the bed because exhaustion has set in, then, you have kind of lost the moment there. So just keep that in mind. Number 4, build emotional on-ramps. This is what I'm talking about. Check in throughout the day. Ask each other, what was the best part about your day? Do something to really connect deeper before you instantly get into the physical act of sex, because that's just going to make it sweeter, make it better. Share a specific affirmation about today. I saw you step up with the kids tonight, and that was amazing. Thank you for doing that. Or share some kind of story from your day or humor. I mean, I love it, and I hear this often for couples who are joking even while they're having sex. Laughter, fun are really at the top of my list, so I'm always for that.
Yes.
Number 5, create initiation rhythm. And that means you are going to have things that you typically do, things that you can anticipate. So you might need a soft start. So you're not just instantly, as I always say, we're not grabbing the headlights the first thing out. We want to build into this
Right.
gently. So maybe you have some fun, playful phrases that you do with each other. That is really important. A 10-minute rule. Now, I found this one in some research, and I want to really explore this. 10 minutes of talking, 10 minutes of cuddling, 10 minutes of kissing only. Wow, that would be really fun. And that, if it's new to you, then this might be some great variety and spark a little extra interest. And then rotating, initiating responsibility, so it doesn't always fall on one spouse. Now, I know if that's your go-to and you're both comfortable, because I do hear that a lot, then obviously it's your relationship. And if that's your mutual understanding, then that's awesome. But I do love when spouses take turns with initiation, because that is sharing everything. Number 6, and I only have 7 of them, so I'm not counting down to 10. Just thought I'd throw that in. Number 6 is to protect the atmosphere, and that means no heavy conflict before bed. That's going to interrupt your sex life. That's going to interrupt your sleep. That's going to interrupt your next day, probably, if that's when you're choosing.
What if your goal is makeup sex? That's number 11, and we're not getting there today.
That is a thing. To acknowledge the tension and say, we'll get there later. Yeah. I love that. And that's kind of a mature place in the relationship, when you realize I can bring something up. I'm not mad. Don't want you to feel rejected. I just need to kind of put a placeholder there, and we will give more attention to it later. If there needs to be rejection, as in if initiation was made and it's just not happening for any number of respectable reasons, no is certainly a viable answer, but be gentle, be kind, and still connect. It doesn't have to be, what on earth were you thinking? Oh, that is going to send things the wrong way. Okay, and then my last one, number 7, is plan for it. Plan for intimacy. Maybe there are likely nights of the week, just looking at your schedule, that you think are going to be helpful. Think ahead during the day. Certainly those flirty texts go a long, long way. And express your anticipation. A lot of couples are working with how comfortable they are describing things sexually, but wherever you are on that journey, this has a lot of weight to it.
Yeah.
And I'll just mention here, as we have been adding all of these things together, if this interests you and you'd like to learn more, I do have a marriage tool I call the arousal pathway, because there are certain things you can do. There is a certain timing to it that can make things better and easier. And I have a guide. It's a video. It's some steps for you also. And you can find that in the link below. Hopefully that will help you if you're interested in more tips.
And until next time, let's bring back wholeness.